Hi, everybody. This is our first ever episode of WeTalkSports podcast. My name is Andy, and I'm joined by a very special guest today.
Sam.
Hi, Sam. Today we're going to be doing an NFL mock draft. We're going to take a look, see who I'm picking, who Sam's picking, and we're going to compare it against The Athletic and the mock draft put together by Bruce Feldman, just to add another voice to the conversation. Then we're going to come back after the draft. We're going to see how we did. So tune into part 2 after the draft and see does Sam, Andy, or The Athletic's Bruce Feldman have the magic crystal ball here. So, Sam, you want to kick us off with the number 1 pick in the draft for the Tennessee Titans?
For the number 1 overall pick in the draft, I have Cam Ward being picked by the Tennessee Titans.
All right. I also have Cam Ward going to the Tennessee Titans, as does Bruce Feldman and The Athletic, which seems like a pretty clear consensus on what's happening at number 1. And then things start getting interesting with the second pick. So, Sam, what do you have for pick number 2?
I have the edge Abdul Carter going to the Browns.
All right. Same pick as The Athletic. Abdul Carter to the Browns out of Penn State. Now, I am showing a complete lack of faith in the New York Giants front office to know how to handle the situation. So they're in a difficult position. Win now, but if you don't win this year, you're out. They need probably 3 years to create a competitive team. So I think they're going to panic here. I think Cleveland's going to convince them that someone is going to jump up and steal Shedeur Sanders at number 2. So I have the Giants trading up 1 spot to pick Shedeur Sanders at number 2. All right, let's move to number 3. Sam, you want to kick us off with number 3, which should be, unless there's a trade, the Giants pick.
Yes. So I have the New York Giants picking wide receiver and cornerback Travis Hunter.
Heisman Trophy winner out of Colorado. Where do you think he's going to play, Sam? Wide receiver or cornerback?
Probably cornerback, but he'll probably play a little bit of wide receiver for them.
Okay, I think that's what most people think, although there's a lot of people who think he can be a great wide receiver. If he sticks to that, him and Malik Neighbors would be pretty dangerous, huh?
Yeah.
All right, well, The Athletic has Shedeur Sanders going to the Giants at 3, so similar to what I had, but at their actual pick 3. Now, in my case, the Browns traded back, and they still get the guy they wanted, Abdul Carter, out of Penn State, but they get some extra draft capital also, so you don't normally think of the Browns as having shrewd moves, but they did in this case in my mock draft. All right, let's go to pick 4. Sam, who are the Patriots taking with the 4th pick?
I have them taking Will Campbell out of LSU.
All right, that is a good pick. Will Campbell, offensive lineman, first offensive lineman to go. I think he's considered the strongest one in the draft. The Athletic has Travis Hunter going number 4 to New England, and I have Travis Hunter going number 4 to New England. I think New England likes him as a receiver, so that would be interesting to see how that goes, if that's his primary position with New England. All right, number 5 pick, Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay, I have a trade for number 5. I have the Browns trading into the number 5 pick. They trade their pick 33, their second rounder, and pick 104, their 4th rounder, plus a 2026 first rounder to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then select Shedeur Sanders from there.
All right, so the Browns' 2 top 5 picks. They can't let the quarterback position slide too much longer, so they get a stud defensive lineman, and they get their quarterback there at number 5 in your draft. The Athletic goes with Mason Graham, defensive tackle for Michigan. Interestingly, that's someone I have sliding a bit in my draft. We'll get to that later. I have the first maybe big surprise here. I think Jacksonville, they're still struggling to figure out an offensive identity, try to help Trevor Lawrence, thinking of Travis Hunter, Trevor Lawrence get going. So I have them actually taking Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State. That, in the top 5 picks, means 2 Penn State players and 2 Colorado players in the top 5, which is kind of crazy. All right, at number 6, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Okay, I have the Raiders picking Ashton Genty with their number 6 pick.
All right, the running back from Boise State off the board at number 6. I also have the Raiders taking Ashton Jeanty. I think Pete Carroll now being in Las Vegas, they have their quarterback figured out. And he loves having a good running game, so that makes a ton of sense to me. The Athletic chose Jalen Walker, edge out of Georgia. All right, the 7th pick, going to the New York Jets.
Okay, I have the New York Jets taking our man Membu to help protect Justin Fields next season.
Okay, offensive tackle. Your second offensive tackle draft in your particular mock draft. That is exactly what Bruce Feldman and the Athletic picked. Offensive lineman out of Missouri. In my case, I still haven't had an offensive lineman taken, so I have the Jets going with Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU. All right, let's see here. The number 8 pick in the draft is the Carolina Panthers. What have you got going on there, Sam?
I have the Carolina Panthers picking Terocha McMillan out of Arizona to be one of their new wide receivers.
All right, first wide receiver off the board if you don't count Travis Hunter. So that's a good pick there. Number 8 for the Athletics, Bruce Feldman. He is picking Mikael Williams, edge out of Georgia, to the Carolina Panthers. And I am going with Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan, to the Panthers. So 3 different picks. We'll be able to take a look and see who came closest after the draft. Okay, number 9. Now this is interesting. This is where the Saints pick. I think if Shedeur Sanders doesn't get picked by the Browns or the Giants, he would slip all the way down here to 9. But in all of our mock drafts, he's gone. So who do you have at 9 to the Saints?
I have Will Johnson, the corner out of Michigan.
All right, good pick there. I had picked him one earlier. I'm going with my second-ranked offensive lineman here, Armand Membu out of Missouri. And Bruce Feldman out of the Athletic. Interesting, he flipped those two. He had Membu going earlier. Now he has Will Campbell going to New Orleans at number 9 from LSU, so staying in Louisiana. All right, number 10, we have the Chicago Bears on the clock. Who do you have, Sam?
I have the edge Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M.
All right, I have the same thing. I think they want to bulk up their defense, get a little more pressure on the quarterback. So I have the Bears taking Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M, and Bruce Feldman out of the Athletic thinks the Bears are going to go running back here, Ashton Jeanty. That would be interesting to pair him with Caleb Williams if he's still available at number 10. All right, let's take a look at the 11th pick. Who do you have going to the San Francisco 49ers?
I have Mason Graham from Michigan going to the San Francisco 49ers.
All right, defensive tackle. I also have him going to the 49ers. I think that would be a bit of a slide for him if that really happened, but I think there are so many other good possibilities in the top 10. I see him going to the 49ers. They're not going to pass on a defensive tackle at that point in the draft. The Athletic goes with Jahdae Barron from Texas, cornerback. Still staying on the defensive side of the ball, which makes sense given where the 49ers were last year. All right, now we're going to pick number 12, and this is the Dallas Cowboys. What do you have, Sam?
I have the Dallas Cowboys picking a wide receiver, Matthew Golden, out of Texas.
All right, that's a good pick, staying in the state of Texas. I'm on the same wavelength. I have wide receiver Terocha McMillan out of Arizona going to the Dallas Cowboys. And the Athletics, Bruce Feldman, staying offensive, but he's going with a running back, second running back he has in the first round, Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina. All right, moving right along to the 13th pick in the first round is to the Miami Dolphins. And Sam, what do you say?
I have Kelvin Banks Jr., the offensive lineman from Texas.
Same exact pick for me, Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas. Can we get all three? No. Bruce Feldman from the Athletic is picking Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan. All right, 14th pick in the draft goes to the Indianapolis Colts. Sam, what do you have going on there?
I have him getting the tight end, Tyler Warren from Penn State.
All right, Athletics, Bruce Feldman also has Tyler Warren from Penn State going to Indianapolis. They've had great success with tight ends in the past, and that would be a good fit, I would think, for Anthony Richardson. In my case, he's already off the board, so I'm going with Jalen Walker on the defensive side, linebacker out of Georgia. All right, we are at 15, and the Atlanta Falcons. What say you, Sam?
I have the Atlanta Falcons taking a safety out of Georgia, Malachi Starks.
Malachi Starks to the Falcons, staying also in the state of Georgia. The Athletics, Bruce Feldman, has Jihad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama at 15. I also have Malachi Starks going to the Falcons, staying in the state of Georgia. All right, we are moving on to pick number 16 in the draft. And Sam, what do you have for the Arizona Cardinals?
I have the Arizona Cardinals picking the edge rusher Michael Williams.
All right, out of Georgia. And the Athletic pick is Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. I'm also going with Michael Williams out of Georgia for the 16th pick to the Arizona Cardinals. All right, we are about to go to the 17th pick in the draft. Before we do, just want to talk about how Sam and I did an internship last summer with the NFL. We got to talk with all of the NFL teams about their draft strategy, and this is why we know what we're talking about. So when we pick these picks, you can bank on them happening. Of course, none of this is guaranteed, so take it with a grain of salt, but we know what all the front offices are thinking because we talk to everyone. Right, Sam?
Sure.
Sure. All right. Let's go with 17. The Cincinnati Bengals on the clock. Here's a team that's just on the outside of being competitive. Looks like they're going for it, trying to re-sign all their big name stars. Who are they going to bring in to help them out?
Edge, James Pierce Jr.
All right, out of Tennessee. Good analysis there, Sam. So let's see, the Athletic going with Mike Green, also edge out of Marshall. So thinking same position. I'm also going with an edge rusher, James Pierce Jr., same as Sam. So we're on the same wavelength there. Let's move to number 18, the Seattle Seahawks. This will be an interesting pick as they sort of remake that team. What do you got going on, Sam?
I have them taking Tyler Booker out of Alabama.
All right, and that is an offensive lineman out of Alabama. He will be protecting Sam Darnold, it sounds like, the new quarterback for Seattle. I'm thinking they got rid of most of their receivers. So Metcalf is now in Pittsburgh, and Lockett is a free agent. So they need another wide receiver. Matthew Golden, in my case, still on the board. So he's going to go to Seattle at number 18. And the Athletic picks Tataria McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona, also on the board. So we're both thinking wide receiver. Number 19, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What have you got going on, Sam?
Okay, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers trading away the number 19 pick in a trade with the Las Vegas Raiders, where the Las Vegas Raiders give the Buccaneers their third round and fourth round pick plus a 2026 first rounder, and then select wide receiver Luther Bird in the third.
All right, so you've got them picking running back Ashton Genty earlier in the draft, and then they're saying we've got to get some more offense here. We like this wide receiver, so we're drafting him. We're going to trade up to get him. That's an interesting pick there. Athletic is going with Donovan Ezereku. Sure, I said that wrong. Edge out of Boston College. And I have them taking safety Nick Emanawari, also probably said that wrong, out of South Carolina, the 19th pick. If you could pronounce the names, you win. All right, number 20, we've got the Denver Broncos. What do you got going on?
I think the Denver Broncos need more wide receivers, so I have them picking wide receiver Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State.
Okay, that'd be an interesting move for them. Looks like we're all somewhat on the same wavelength. The Athletic has Matthew Golden from Texas go to the Denver Broncos. Now, this may seem like a controversial pick, but I have them picking Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. They just signed Ingram to be their lead tight end, but he is definitely not young. And so I think they can get two really good tight ends. It usually takes tight ends a year or two to get going anyway, so they've got the future of that position pretty well set if they go with Colston Loveland out of Michigan. All right, 21st pick in the draft belongs to the Pittsburgh Steelers. People have been sitting here wondering, what are they doing with their quarterback situation? Are they getting Aaron Rodgers? He doesn't seem like he wants to go there, but maybe he'll go there if Minnesota doesn't ultimately want him. He's loving the idea of following the Brett Favre path to Minnesota. So Pittsburgh sitting here, 21. There's still lots of quarterbacks on the board. Do you think they're going to take one, Sam?
Yes. So I think they're going to pick Jackson Dart. It's a quarterback. I think they're going to try to get Aaron Rodgers still. We've seen that he was having catches with DK Metcalf. So I think they're going to pick Jackson Dart, have him maybe sit like behind Aaron Rodgers for a year, and then have him start in his second year in the NFL.
All right, that's a good pick. That's what the Athletic thinks also is going to happen. Now, I'm getting a little cute here maybe, but in the very short time of my life that I've spoken to Mike Tomlin from Pittsburgh, I get a sense that he knows he doesn't have to reach for a quarterback right here. They can wait and get one a little bit later. So they're going to pick up some extra draft capital. The Buffalo Bills are sitting there. They love Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. So the Bills are going to move up here. They're going to take this spot and take Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. And then we'll hear from Pittsburgh again before this first round is over, I promise you. All right, 22nd pick in the draft. We have the Los Angeles Chargers. Still keep wanting to say San Diego. They are Los Angeles. Who do you got, Sam?
I have them picking the tight end Colston Loveland.
All right, tight end out of Michigan. You and the Athletic both suggested Colston Loveland might go to the Chargers here. I am thinking that Jahdae Barron, cornerback from Texas, is who they want as they need to bolster their defense a little bit more. All right, number 23, the Green Bay Packers. What have you got going on there, Sam?
Okay, so there's no doubt that the Green Bay Packers need a wide receiver one. However, at this point in the draft, there's not very many wide receivers that would be worth taking. So I actually have them taking a defensive player, Jahdae Barron, the corner from Texas.
I love that pick. I just picked him one spot in front of you. I'm going with defense also for them. Linebacker Jihad Campbell out of Alabama. And Bruce Feldman from the Athletic is suggesting Gray Zabel, offensive lineman from North Dakota State, would be the pick at 23. All right, we're getting down to the last few picks of the round. We're at 24. The Minnesota Vikings are on the clock. Sam, what do you have them doing?
I have the Minnesota Vikings picking safety Nick Emenwari from South Carolina.
All right, you and Bruce Feldman from the Athletic are looking at that being the pick at 24. I'm going with Tyler Booker, offensive guard out of Alabama, with the 24th pick in the draft. All right, 25th pick in the draft. We're getting to some teams that have some high hopes for next season, and let's see if they can get some guys who can come in and contribute and help put them over the top. It's a little bit disappointing season last year for the Houston Texans. They've got a chance here to bolster part of their team. Where are they going to be looking, Sam?
Okay, so once again, I think the Houston Texans could use a wide receiver with Stephon Diggs gone. Tank Dell's most likely going to be out for all of next year. However, once again, not really a good wide receiver available, so I have them taking someone on their offensive line, Josh Simmons from Ohio State.
All right, I've got the same thing. Josh Simmons from Ohio State. Get that Ohio State connection with C.J. Stroud and Josh Simmons on the offensive line together. The Athletics, Bruce Feldman has Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle for Texas. I think everyone's thinking, let's go ahead and help out C.J. Stroud with some offensive line help. All right, at 26, we have the Los Angeles Rams on the clock. What do you say, Sam?
I have the Los Angeles Rams getting Nick Swarton, the edge out of Texas A&M.
All right, I also have them taking him. I'm going to say his name is Nick Swarton. Don't know which one is right. We'll find out when we watch the draft together. But a little defensive line help there to get to the quarterback. And then the Athletics, Bruce Feldman actually has a trade here, similar to what you did earlier, Sam, when you gave the Cleveland Browns a second pick in the first round. he's thinking the Cleveland Browns are going to trade up here, and they're going to go ahead and take Josh Simmons, offensive tackle out of Ohio State, who we just saw go in our mock drafts one pick earlier. All right, number 27, the Baltimore Ravens. What do you got, Sam?
I have them picking Jalen Walker out of Georgia.
All right, that is a good pick. I had him off my board already, so not available in my case, but I do have Greg Zabel, offensive guard from North Dakota State. He looks like a clear first-round pick. And then the Athletic went with Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia, to the Baltimore Ravens. You and I both had him off the board quite a bit earlier, so that'll be interesting to see where he ends up. Number 28, the Detroit Lions. Such a great season last year. Didn't work out in the playoffs. What are they going to do to try to get over the hump?
I have them picking Greg Zabel from North Dakota State.
All right. It looks like we've all had him off our boards at this point. I'm thinking they want to further shore up their defense, so I'm going with cornerback Shavon Revel. He's out of East Carolina. I think he's going to be a real good NFL cornerback, and the Detroit Lions are going to love having him. And the Athletic is predicting Nick Scorton, who we picked just a pick earlier, to Texas A&M, out of Texas A&M, the edge. So we will move on to pick number 29, the Washington Commanders. What do you think, Sam?
I have the Washington Commanders taking the cornerback out of East Carolina, Shavon Revel.
All right, one pick after me. Good pick there, in my opinion. I think I'll go around there in the first round. I think even though their wide receiver, in my mind, isn't necessarily their number one need, I think they've got a great quarterback coming off his rookie season, Jaden Daniels, and so they can't pass up at this point Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State to help out with their wide receiver position. And the Athletic is going with James Pierce Jr., edge out of Tennessee. All right, we are at the 30th pick in the draft. The Buffalo Bills are on the clock for everybody except me because I did a trade earlier with the Pittsburgh Steelers, so I have the Steelers on the clock. Sam, what do you have the Buffalo Bills doing?
I have them picking Derek Harmon out of Oregon.
All right, that's interesting because I had them trade all the way up to 21 to get Derek Harmon, thinking he wouldn't make it all the way to 30. Maybe you've just outsmarted the entire Buffalo Bills front office. We'll see how that plays out. The Athletic has Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan, going to the Buffalo Bills. Now, here's where I had the Steelers trade back in the draft, thinking they had plenty of time to get the quarterback they wanted. They got some extra draft capital, and then they make a big, shocking pick here. I think everyone would expect Jackson Dart to be the next quarterback off of the board, but I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, again, in the very limited time I've spoken with them, which is about 0 minutes and 0 seconds, they fell in love with Jalen Milroe, and that's who they're going with. Jalen Milroe with the 30th pick, surprise first-round draft pick out of Alabama. All right, we are almost at the very end here. We've got 2 more picks. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs on the board at 31. What do you say, Sam?
I have the Kansas City Chiefs picking Tyleik Williams,
defensive tackle out of Ohio State. All right, that's a good pick. The Athletic is going with Shamar Stewart, the edge out of Texas A&M, also sticking on the defensive line. Seems like a smart move on their part. Now, having seen the Steelers get Jalen Milroe, now all of a sudden Jackson Dart is sitting out there. Anybody who's looking for a quarterback is trying to get something here, and so I had the Cleveland Browns. Now, I am the third one of our mock drafters who has gone in and had the Cleveland Browns go for a second first-round pick. In this case, I have them jumping in at number 31, trying to get ahead of that early second-round rush on quarterbacks. They're going to get their guy, Jackson Dart, all the way down at number 31 from a trade with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I should have mentioned earlier, we're just doing the first round today, and so we don't want to, bore too much as we go through every single round. We're going to stick with the first round. That's what we're going to measure after the draft. Let's take a look. The last pick of the first round of the NFL draft, number 32, the Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles. Sam, how are they going to close out the first round?
I have Jihad Campbell slipping all the way down to the 32nd overall pick and being picked by the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right, linebacker out of Alabama. That would be a bit of a slide for him. I think he'll be gone by then, but if he's still there, you better believe the Eagles would take him. I have them taking edge out of Boston College, Donovan Ezeruku. Said that wrong for sure. And then Bruce Feldman and the Athletic. They have the Las Vegas Raiders making a trade with the Eagles because they're sitting there watching as Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State, wide receiver, is still on the board. I think we've all thought that they're going to want to get a wide receiver in this draft. He's picking them with the Las Vegas Raiders via trade with the Eagles at number 32. So that is our first round mock draft and the first episode of our new podcast. So we hope you'll listen, that you'll come back. Check us out after the draft to see how we did. In the meantime, we'll probably throw up one or two more podcasts in advance of the draft as we talk about all things sports. Sam's a big football fan, so if we bring Sam back on, he'll definitely want to talk a little football. But we'll get into other sports as well. There's a lot going on as we start off the baseball season, wrap up college basketball, national championship coming up tomorrow night. Sam, who do you have in the national championship game tomorrow night? Houston or Florida?
Well, I had my national championship game was Duke versus Florida, but since Duke is out, I do have Florida winning it.
All right. Well, that's a popular pick, I would say. I'm gonna go for the upset again, see if they can keep going. Hard to call Houston a Cinderella as a number 1 seed, but not many people thought they'd beat Duke. So let's see if they can keep it going. Beat Florida. It was a great year for the SEC in basketball overall, but if they don't win the championship, I'm not sure they're going to be satisfied. Let's not forget how good the Big 12 is at basketball. Houston, I have taken the championship. I'll say that's probably the kiss of death because I had picked Duke and Auburn to win their games earlier this weekend, and obviously I was wrong on both. So sorry, Houston, but I'm picking you to win the championship. All right, Sam, any last words before we wrap up?
No.
No? All right. Well, thanks for joining me today, everyone. Thanks, Sam, for your expert opinions. Thank you to the Athletics' Bruce Feldman. You didn't know it, but you were helping us out as well. And we'll see you all next time.